What if the place you thought was safe became the epicenter of something sinister? I still remember the moment I set foot in Hawthorne Academy, a seemingly ordinary high school nestled in the heart of Salem, Massachusetts. With its ivy-clad walls and spacious courtyards that echoed with the laughter of students, it was easy to overlook the shadows lurking just beyond the sunlit paths. But for me, the shadows felt different. They whispered secrets I had long buried, coaxing me to uncover the truth hidden beneath the surface. I had transferred to Hawthorne, hoping to escape the weight of my past, a past tangled with grief and loss. My mother, a passionate historian, had vanished under circumstances shrouded in mystery when I was just a child. Her disappearance had left a void in my life, a chasm that no amount of time could fill. Life had taught me to tread carefully around the edges of darkness. But as I roamed the halls of Hawthorne, curiosity pulled me deeper into its heart. It was a crisp autumn afternoon when I first noticed the peculiar gatherings. A group of students, clad in black hoodies, would congregate behind the old chapel, their voices low and conspiratorial. I couldn't shake the feeling that they were plotting something arcane, something that stirred the air with an unsettling energy. I'd overheard snippets of conversation that hinted at rituals, words like necromancy and sacrifice that sent chills down my spine. They were more than just whispers, they were a siren's call, beckoning me to investigate what lay behind those closed doors. As I wandered through the campus, I felt the weight of Hawthorne itself pressing down on me. The ancient trees that lined the pathways seemed to lean closer, their gnarled branches forming a canopy that concealed the sky. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves, a reminder that life and death were inextricably intertwined here. I often found myself drawn to the school's library, a cavernous space filled with dust-covered tomes. It was there that I discovered a hidden section tucked away from prying eyes, books on the occult, the arcane, and the dark arts. Each page I turned felt like a descent into a world I could barely comprehend, yet felt an inexplicable connection to. But it was not just the books that haunted me. I began to have vivid dreams, nightmares really, of shadowy figures chanting in the moonlight, their faces obscured by darkness. I woke up in a cold sweat, heart racing, the haunting echoes of their voices lingering in my mind. I couldn't help but wonder if my mother's disappearance was somehow linked to this secretive cult that seemed to have infiltrated Hawthorne. The lines between my past and present began to blur, drawing me into a web of mystery that felt both familiar and terrifying. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, I decided to follow the group. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat echoing my growing unease. I crept through the thick underbrush behind the chapel, my breath catching in my throat as I caught sight of flickering candles illuminating the clearing. Shadows danced eerily around the figures, their hands raised in a silent invocation. And then I heard it, a chilling chant that sent a shiver down my spine. It was as if the very air crackled with energy, and I was standing on the precipice of something far more dangerous than I had ever imagined. But when night fell, something inexplicable happened. As I stood there, hidden among the trees, a wave of dread washed over me. The shadows around the flickering candles seemed to pulse with a life of their own, and I felt an instinctive urge to run, but I was rooted in place, an invisible tether binding me to the spectacle before me. The figures in black chanted in unison, their voices rising and falling like a haunting melody that echoed through the clearing. My heart raced as I strained to hear the words, but they were a garbled mixture of ancient languages and modern slang, twisting together into a chilling incantation. Suddenly, a blinding flash of light erupted from the center of the circle, illuminating the darkened clearing. I squinted, trying to make sense of the scene unfolding before me. The flickering candles flared up, casting grotesque shadows on the faces of the gathered figures, their expressions transformed by the sudden brightness. I felt a jolt of energy coursing through me, electrifying my skin and igniting long-buried memories. In that moment, I was transported back to my childhood. My mother sitting at the kitchen table, her fingers tracing the edges of an old, leather-bound book. I remembered the late-night whispers, the strange symbols she drew on paper, and the way her eyes would darken with intensity as she spoke of things I could barely comprehend. "Knowledge is power, Emma," she would say, her voice laced with urgency. "But it can also be a curse." The memory shattered my focus, and I blinked, trying to regain my bearings. But the faces around me shifted, their features morphing into something familiar, yet grotesquely distorted. I gasped as realization hit me. I wasn't just seeing them. I was seeing the echoes of the past. Each figure in the circle wasn't just a member of this clandestine group. They were fragments of my mother's history, her allies, and perhaps even her enemies. "Emma," Lila's voice broke through my reverie, snapping me back to the present. "You have to choose. This is your chance to reclaim your mother's legacy, to understand what she was part of." "Reclaim?" I asked, my voice trembling. "You mean to take on her burdens? To inherit her secrets?" The boy with the tattoo stepped closer, his expression softening for just a moment. "It's more than that. It's about understanding who you really are. Your mother was a key player in something larger than all of us, and now her absence leaves a void that must be filled." A cold shiver ran down my spine as I began to question the very fabric of my reality. Was I losing my mind? The ground beneath me felt unsteady, and I could sense the collective energy of the group surging, hungry for a decision. The shadows whispered more urgently now, and I was certain they were revealing truths I wasn't ready to accept. "Your mother made choices that set the course for this moment," Lila continued, her voice softer, almost pleading. "And those choices are intertwined with yours. You have to confront her past to understand your own." But as I looked into Lila's eyes, I saw something flicker there, an uncertainty that gave me pause. Was she truly an ally? Or was there something darker lurking beneath her enticing facade? The atmosphere thickened, and I could feel the tension rising, not just from the chanting, but from the weight of unspoken truths hovering in the air. Then, as if summoned by my thoughts, a figure emerged from the tree line. It was a man with an air of authority, and his presence sent a ripple of unease through the group. I recognized him, a ghost from my mother's past, someone she had spoken of in hushed tones. His arrival shifted the dynamics completely, and I could see the fear etched on the faces of those around me. "Enough of this," he boomed, his voice slicing through the air like a blade. "You're playing with forces you don't understand." I felt the ground beneath me shift again, and for a fleeting moment, I feared I would be swallowed by the very darkness I had been drawn to. The stakes were rising, and I couldn't ignore the sense that I was caught in a web far more intricate than I had ever imagined. In that moment, I realized I had stumbled into a conflict that wasn't just about me or my mother's past. It was about something much larger, an ancient battle that threatened to consume everyone involved. And as the chanting resumed, more fervent than ever, I understood that I had to unravel these secrets before they unraveled me. I stood frozen, my heart pounding in my chest as the man's voice echoed through the clearing. The shadows seemed to coalesce around him, drawing energy from the very ground beneath our feet. The chanting crescendoed, creating a chaotic symphony that reverberated. In my bones, I could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on me. I was on the precipice of something monumental. It was then that I caught sight of a girl standing at the forefront of the group. She had long, raven hair that cascaded down her back, and her eyes sparkled with a fervor that sent a chill down my spine. I recognized her from my classes. Lila, the enigmatic girl who seemed to drift through the halls like a ghost. She was known for her striking beauty, but also for her aloof demeanor. And now, as I watched her lead this gathering, I felt an unsettling sense of familiarity. Something about her resonated with the darkness I had been drawn to. Suddenly, the chant escalated, and the air grew heavy with anticipation. I could feel the tension in the atmosphere, like a storm brewing just beyond the horizon. My mind raced as I considered the implications of what I was witnessing. This was more than a simple gathering. It was a ritual steeped in mystery, and I was on the cusp of understanding something profound, yet terrifying. Just as I began to back away, a snap of a twig underfoot shattered my concealment. In an instant, the chanting stopped, and all eyes turned toward me. I froze, panic rising in my throat as the group stepped forward, their expressions a mix of curiosity and hostility. Lila's gaze locked onto mine, and for a brief moment, I felt an electric connection, a recognition that sent shivers coursing through me. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice sharp yet strangely melodic. I was just passing by," I stammered, my mind racing for an excuse. "I didn't mean to intrude." Lila's lips curled into a knowing smile, and I felt exposed under her gaze. "You're not the first to be drawn here, you know. There's something about this place that calls to those who seek the truth. But be warned, truth can be more dangerous than ignorance." Before I could respond, a boy with a buzz cut and a tattoo snaking up his arm stepped forward. "You should go," he said, his voice low and threatening. "You don't belong here." As the group closed in around me, I felt the weight of their scrutiny. I was an outsider, and they were a tight-knit circle bound by secrets and dark desires. But I wasn't willing to back down. "Wait," I said, gathering my courage. "What are you doing? What do you want?" The air crackled with tension as Lila exchanged glances with the others, her expression shifting from amusement to contemplation. "We seek knowledge, and we are not afraid of the darkness that comes with it. But you have a past that intertwines with our present." "What do you mean?" I pressed, desperation creeping into my voice. "Your mother," she said, her words hanging heavy in the air. She was part of this. She knew things that could change everything. And now, it's your turn to decide if you will join us or turn away. The revelation hit me like a gut punch. My mother had been a part of this. I felt the ground shift beneath my feet, the shadows of my past colliding with my present. I was standing at a crossroads, and the choices I made now could lead me deeper into the darkness or allow me to escape its grip. But as the group surrounded me, I felt the first tendrils of fear creeping in. There was no turning back now. I was in too deep, and the truth would either set me free or bind me forever. Lila was right. I had to make a choice, and soon. Before I could gather my thoughts, the chanting resumed, louder and more fervent than before. I realized then that whatever they were summoning was far beyond my understanding. I felt the weight of their intentions, pressing down on me, and I knew I had to decide whether to embrace the shadows or fight against them. In that moment, I understood that I was no longer just a passive observer. I was part of something much larger, a mystery that tied my past to the present and threatened to unravel everything I thought I knew. And as the darkness closed in around me, I braced myself for the challenges that lay ahead. As the chanting intensified around me, my heart raced with a mix of fear and anticipation. Lila's words echoed in my mind. Your mother. She knew things. But what could that possibly mean? The shadows seemed to stretch and warp as if they were alive, whispering secrets that I couldn't quite grasp. Step back, Emma, Lila whispered urgently, her hand gripping my arm, but I didn't move. I couldn't. I had to confront this. The man's eyes locked onto mine, and I felt a magnetic pull, a connection that transcended time. He was part of my mother's world, a world I had only begun to scratch the surface of. The fear etched on the faces of the others told me I wasn't merely an observer, I was a player in this game, whether I wanted to be or not. "Who are you?" I managed to ask, my voice trembling, betraying the storm brewing inside me. "What do you want with me?" He took a step forward and the chanting faltered for a heartbeat. "You know who I am, Emma. I am Elias, a guardian of the secrets your mother left behind. You are standing at a crossroads. Choose wisely." "Choose?" I echoed, the word tasting bitter on my tongue. What exactly am I choosing? To become a pawn in a game I don't understand? Or to follow in my mother's footsteps blindly? The shadows seemed to ripple in response, stretching toward me like tendrils. I felt a surge of anger rise within me, a fierce determination to reclaim my narrative. "I don't want your secrets. I want the truth." Elias's expression hardened, but before he could respond, the boy with the tattoo stepped forward, his eyes wide with urgency. "Emma, listen. This isn't just about you. If you refuse, the balance will tip. The consequences will be catastrophic." "Catastrophic?" I shot back, frustration boiling over. "What do you mean? If you all have been a part of this for so long, why should I be the one to carry the burden?" Lila's face contorted with desperation. "Because you're the only one who can wield the power your mother left behind. You have to confront the darkness. Your darkness. It's in your blood." The chanting rose again, filling the air with an almost tangible energy, and I felt it beckoning me. The shadows tightened their grip, swirling around me as if they were alive, hungry for my decision. In that moment, amidst the chaos, I grasped the truth that had eluded me. This was not just about my mother. It was about me claiming my identity, my power. As I took a deep breath, ready to make my choice, the ground trembled beneath us. The energy surged, and it felt like the very fabric of reality was about to tear apart. "I will not be a pawn," I declared fiercely, my voice rising above the din. "I will confront whatever it is that haunts me." Elias's eyes widened, and a flicker of respect crossed his face, but I could sense the danger lurking behind his stoic mask. The shadows pulsated, and for a fleeting moment, I felt a connection with them. Not as a victim, but as a force of my own. I was ready to face the legacy my mother left behind, but at what cost? The air thickened with tension as I prepared to step forward into the unknown, my heart racing with the fear of what lay ahead. But I knew I couldn't turn back now. I had to embrace my mother's legacy, even if it meant confronting the darkness that had haunted our family for generations. Stepped forward, the shadows swirling around me as if they were drawn to my resolve. The chanting crescendoed, vibrating through my body, and I felt the energy crackle in the air. I could see Elias's expression morph from anticipation to something that resembled fear. I was about to confront the darkness that loomed over my family, and I could feel its weight pressing down on me. "Embrace it," I whispered to myself, the words barely escaping my lips. "I am not afraid." As I moved deeper into the clearing, the shadows recoiled momentarily as if unsure of how to react to my defiance. But then they surged forward, wrapping around my limbs like serpents, tightening their grip. I gasped as a jolt of energy coursed through me, and visions flashed before my eyes. My mother, her pain, her power, the choices she had made that had led to this moment. They were all intertwined, tangled in a web of fate. Suddenly, a blinding light erupted from my core, pushing the shadows back. I felt the warmth of it, the strength, but I also felt the pain of my mother's sacrifices seep into my bones. I stumbled, the force of it almost too much to bear. The light pulsed, and I could hear Lila's voice calling my name, panic lacing her tone. "Emma, don't lose yourself!" But it was too late. With a final, desperate shout, I let the power flow through me, and the shadows shattered like glass, dissipating into the ether. I collapsed to the ground, gasping for breath, the world spinning around me. I had done it. I had confronted the darkness. But at what cost? The clearing fell silent, the echoes of the chanting fading into the night. I looked around, my heart still racing, and saw the expressions on the faces of my companions. Relief, fear, and something else that I couldn't quite place. Elias knelt beside me, his gaze intense. "You've done something extraordinary, but you've also awakened forces we cannot fully control. This is only the beginning, Emma." I nodded, still trying to catch my breath, but his words hung heavy in the air. Lila rushed to my side, her eyes filled with tears. "You were incredible, but what now?" The boy with the tattoo, who had been watching from a distance, stepped forward. "You've bound the shadows, but they're not gone. There are remnants, echoes still lurking. Your power has drawn their attention." I shivered at the realization. This confrontation had not resolved everything. It had only stirred the pot. I could feel it in my bones. The mystery of my mother's legacy was still alive, still dangerous. As I looked into the eyes of my friends, I understood that they had been irrevocably changed as well. Lila's determination had sparked a new fire within her, and she would no longer be just a bystander. The boy with the tattoo, too, bore the marks of this encounter. His expression was weary but resolute. We had survived, but scars lingered, both physical and emotional. I felt a deep ache in my chest, a reminder of the darkness I had faced, and I knew that my journey was far from over. Questions swirled in my mind. What other secrets had my mother hidden? What darkness awaited us next? As I rose to my feet, I locked eyes with Elias, who seemed to sense my unspoken questions. "The real battle lies ahead, Emma. You've only just begun to understand your power. We'll need each other to uncover the truth." With that, a new resolve settled over me. I had confronted my mother's legacy, but more than that, I had begun to forge my own path. And as the shadows danced at the edges of the clearing, I knew that our adventure was just beginning. I stood amidst the remnants of the shattered shadows, the air thick with the weight of the moment. Elias's words echoed in my mind, a constant reminder that the path ahead was fraught with peril. I had awakened something far beyond my understanding, and now I faced a choice that could alter the course of everything. As I regained my footing, the clearing suddenly shifted, the ground beneath me trembling. Two figures emerged from the swirling mist, each embodying a different fate. The first was a vision of my mother, her face a mixture of sorrow and strength. "Emma," she beckoned, her voice echoing with the weight of the past. "You can take my place and bear the burden of our legacy. Embrace the darkness and wield its power to protect those you love." The second figure was a shadow of myself, darker and twisted, holding promises of unrestrained power. "Reject her call," it hissed. "Leave the weight of the past behind and seize control of your destiny. Together we can unleash the shadows and reshape the world in our image." I could feel the pull of both paths, each equally terrible yet alluring. If I chose my mother's legacy, I would carry the pain and responsibility she had borne, forever haunted by her choices. But to embrace the darkness would mean succumbing to a power that could corrupt my soul, turning me into the very thing I fought against. With my heart racing, I realized that this was the moment that would define me. I looked between the two visions, the weight of my family's history heavy on my shoulders, and I knew I had to decide. The choice loomed before me, an abyss of uncertainty. "Emma!" Lila's voice sliced through the tension, grounding me. "What will you choose?" I took a deep breath, the air thick with anticipation, and prepared to step into the unknown, my decision echoing in the silence. If you enjoyed this story, Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Share with your friends so they can also embark on this mystery-filled adventure. Leave a comment below telling us your favorite part or what kind of ending you'd like to see in a future story.